Attention horror fans, Colleen, of Vlada Tale of the Damned is the forthcoming comic book sequel to Vlada, A Dracula Tale, a gender-swapped spin on the world of Dracula, featuring an original story by Chris Denmead and art by Matt Slay and Tim Vigil. The Kickstarter campaign for this 28-page comic book is now live. Visit Colleen of Vlada Tale of the Damned on Kickstarter and back this project now. Check out the Vlada, A Dracula Tale Facebook page for more. Fat Moose Comics, established in 1982, is New Jersey's best and oldest comic book store. Led by current owner Sean Hendricks, Moose has that rare, old-school comic shop feel and camaraderie, yet also remains a welcoming space for new fans. If you're looking for something and they don't have it, they can probably get it for you. They know a guy. Visit Fat Moose in Whippany the next time you are in the Garden State, and be sure to reach out via the Fat Moose Comics Facebook page. Welcome to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss the news of James Gunn's Man of Tomorrow, as well as the status of the overall DCU slate, is the host of Always Hold On to Smallville and the Hammer of Bravia himself, Zach Moore. Welcome back.
You know, Anthony, you have to remember, the Man of Tomorrow is forged by his battles today.
Well said. Yeah, we got to always hold on to Smallville, as we do.
Always hold on to Smallville. That is a quote from Smallville Season 1, Episode 18, Jerome, for the record. So, from Lex Luthor himself, who might be the titular Man of Tomorrow. We'll discuss, Anthony.
We will. So, on Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025, we had simultaneous social media posts by James Gunn, David Corenswet, and Nicholas Hoult. They posted variations of comic book art featuring Corenswet's Superman and Nicholas Holt's Lex in the classic green war suit, and all had the caption, Man of Tomorrow, in theaters, July 9th, 2027. So where were you when you first came across this, and what were the immediate thoughts and feelings that surged within you?
Wow, that is a loaded question. So like most of these announcements that James Gunn gives us, I'm just, I don't know, living my life out and about in the middle of the day, you know, not just, and then blindsided by, as you know, as fellow podcasters, we relate to this. We are the Superman guy in a lot of people's lives. So everyone wants to share the news. People want to hear what we have to say. Oh my God, did you see? So those start trickling in, you know, and, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Man of Tomorrow. That's interesting. They took the title that we're going to make for the Man of Steel sequel and made it for the Superman sequel. I find that very intentional, but that's just my opinion. And then it's artwork. I'm like, oh, is that Jim Lee? Because, you know, Jim Lee is a very specific, distinctive. He's one of the greatest comic book artists of all time. I'm like, it is Jim Lee. I'll look at his signature. It is Jim Lee. They specifically drew this. This isn't just some random image. Like, it's David but I'm like, wait, that's not just a random image. That's David Corenswet's costume. And they're like leaning. So this is like slow revelation of what this means, right? I'm like, oh, wait, he's like leaning on it with a screwdriver. Like they're like buddies. Like it's a Lex Superman team up. And then I thought back to all this coyness, which frankly, I find exhausting from James Gunn. Like, hey, there's going to be a sequel in a manner of speaking. I'm like, come on, dude, just tell us or don't tell us. Or don't say anything, because all I just find that I'm sure he has fun doing that, playing with the fans, getting the clicks on the social media. I'm sure he gets off on it. Good for him. I find it exhausting. Just don't comment on it, right? Because as we'll talk about, you know, they laid out a very specific slate of films, and that's totally gone. And now we have a totally different expectation. So these are all the thoughts going through my head. I'm like, oh, Man of Tomorrow, but it's not a Superman sequel. Is that referring to Lex Luthor? They're obviously like, anyway, this image, this specifically drawn image for this conveys a sense of like they're on the same side. That's intriguing. Wow. Okay. So we went from like, oh, Supergirl's coming next year, and then we'll see what's next for Superman, to Superman. It has a sequel of sorts in 2 years. In 2 years. So like, I mean, that's great, because keep the content coming. And then ultimately that was my surge of thoughts and feelings as this news came in.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to get your perspective. I was down here in the office. I work from home. It was about midday, and I had opened up Instagram really just for a second, and literally I was closing the app, but it caught my eye. I saw David Corenswet. His was the one that popped up at the top of my feed, and I saw that art. And I guess not unlike yourself, I did a bit of a double take, because it took a moment for it to register, oh, it's him. And it's original art. And then obviously I scroll down and I see the caption, and then I immediately had to go double check James Gunn's feed just to make sure. No, I have to say my initial reaction was a positive, excited one. I think in large part, exactly to your point, there has been a lot of coyness about what a follow-up is going to look like. There was, I don't know, an earnings call or something a month or so ago, and David Zaslav said that Gunn was preparing the next installment in the Super family. And then Gunn himself has been talking about how it's not going to be a direct sequel. It's not Superman 2, but Superman is very important. It's the next chapter in the Superman saga. So, I mean, I wasn't exactly sure what we were in for, but to have it called Man of Tomorrow, even though it'll almost certainly change, like all of these titles change, and we can talk about that, but to even have that as the preliminary title, and for the first imagery to be of Superman and Lex together, intriguing to me, and it gives me confidence and hope. Hopefully it's not misplaced, that this will be as Superman centric as we want it to be, even if it's not technically Superman 2. Although even that then becomes a question of, what does Gunn consider a true direct sequel or not? I mean, this might all just be a semantics game. We might watch this and be like, yeah, like it's the sequel.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the MCU eventually found itself in. Like Captain America Civil War is Avengers 2.5 or whatever, right? So, I mean, what do these titles even mean anymore? Because I mean, that's why we have all the big titles are taken. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. Well, they did it again, so it didn't stop them. But like all these titles are like, what do they even mean anymore, right? So totally. So I think my hope would be we watch that movie, at the end of it, we say that was Superman 2. And my other hope would be that was great. So those are my two hopes, obviously, for the movie. I'm intrigued. Look, I love Lex Luthor as a character. We can talk more about it, I guess. I was not as hot on this Lex Luthor as I think 95% of everybody else seems to be. That's fine. Give them another chance. Like they might do something here that I can latch onto and connect with. That's what I want. I want more depth for this Lex Luthor. I thought he was rather one-dimensional. Again, I'm alone in this, and everybody seems to love this Lex Luthor. If they're going to have a movie where he's basically the co-lead, I certainly hope he'll get a lot of attention and depth. Insight into why he is the way he is, his relationship with Superman, which I felt was very lacking in this film, because they met for the first time and that was it. So that's great. I love these two characters. I have more Smallville in me than I thought, because like I need that relationship to be like at the core of these things when those two characters appear together. And that's, from all we can tell from this very basic announcement, that seems to be what they were at least promising. So that does intrigue me and excite me as well.
Yeah, I want to talk more about your feelings towards the previous movie and Lex specifically. So we'll circle back to that. But just on the note of this art. So like I said, there were 3 variations. You mentioned the Jim Lee piece. That's where you have Superman and Lex in the war suit side by side. Superman's kind of leaning against Lex. He's holding a screwdriver. I'll be honest, I didn't even clock this at the beginning, but one of our patrons mentioned the screws on the ground, indicating that maybe Superman is like messing with him, taking apart the suit in some way. That was lost on me upon my initial glance. So yeah, who knows exactly what's going on, but that one, certainly more than the other two, conveys some sense of, oh, these guys might actually be working together in this movie. So that was one. We also had Jorge Jimenez did another piece. That one is Superman and Lex in action, kind of side by side. I don't know that I would say they look buddy per se in that, but they're not at each other's throats in that either. I feel like that was sort of your classic action shot. And then Mitch Gerrits did the one of the two of them fighting. Did you have a favorite among the 3, just stylistically?
I mean, I would say the first one I saw was the Jim Lee one that James Gunn was putting out, and I love Jim Lee, so I would just say, I mean, to me that's it had the most kind of character to it, almost, right? Because I mean, they're not just fighting or posing, like they're doing a little shoulder to shoulder. So I mean, they're all fine artworks, but if I had to pick one, I would pick that one, the Jim Lee one.
I mean, that's probably what I gravitate towards too. I do genuinely like them all. And a few of our patrons brought up this notion of using comic book art. And I have to say, and credit where credit's due to Gunn. I mean, throughout, since he's taken over, he has really made a point to shine a light on the comic book creators, bringing them to the set, for example, for that set visit.
I am just so happy we have original artwork for this. I can't tell. I can't even look at the cover of All Star Superman anymore because of how often it was used in every single news story for the previously titled Superman Legacy for about a year and a half. It was that cover of All Star Superman, and I'm like, okay, we get it, right? But like and they didn't want to give anything away, right? So I mean, that's why they did that. And it's a new universe. They have really nothing to base this off of. Obviously, now they have the actors. They know what the suit's going to look like, right? They can, work something up as an announcement. But I'm just so happy we're not just looking at a cover of a comic book that we all know for something else anymore. This has truly more of its own identity than we had before.
Yeah. Now, all right, the business about the title. So the caption just said Man of Tomorrow. IMDb just says Man of Tomorrow. I've seen a number of articles that have titled it or referred to it as Superman, the Man of Tomorrow. So we'll see.
They don't know ball like we do. They don't know that like Superman is also the Man of Tomorrow.
True. I guess, well, two-part question. The first one, how likely do you think it is that this title will change? Because like we've been saying, we went through this. First it was Superman Legacy, then just Superman. First it was Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Based on the comic it's allegedly adapting. Now it's just Supergirl. So what do we think here?
Well, I think those last two things you said are connected. I think originally we were going to have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. But then when they decided, you know what, we're making another movie with Superman in it, sequel or no, we're going to call it Man of Tomorrow. We need to change Woman of Tomorrow to just Supergirl. So this can be Man of Tomorrow. That's, I think, who knows? I'm probably, 50-50, right? If I'm right or wrong, who knows? It doesn't matter. But if I had to guess, that was the thinking, right? So the title change that would have has come already from Supergirl dropping the Woman of Tomorrow. So this is just Man of Tomorrow. That's my theory. We'll see. We got 2 years to find out if it sticks.
I know. I guess. Yeah. I think your theory could very well be spot on. What we'll find out with this one is this just Gunn's thing? He likes to put out an initial title and then massage it into something else later. Either way, I'm fine. Now, my other part of that question, Man of Tomorrow, that designation for Superman, does that hold any special significance or meaning to you in any way?
No, I like it from Smallville. I think Smallville actually is one of the only ones that have really brought it back into any or brought it at all into multimedia. I mean, you're more studied than I am over the course of the Superman history, especially comic books, right? So I can't think of any other version of it. They've called him the Man of Tomorrow other than Supergirl and Lex Luthor's first episode, John Cryer. He's like, I was the Man of Tomorrow, not him. Right. That's the only other time I can recall. And maybe people are yelling at their speakers right now that I'm wrong, but I think that's a cool, it's kind of like an undercover alternate name for him. The Man of Steel, everybody calls him that. Right. But the Man of Tomorrow is also cool. And I think it's fresher because it's used less, so that's more exciting, I guess. And he truly is like the Man of Tomorrow because he's who we all should aspire to be, right? So I like that moniker for him, and a Man of Steel, Dark Knight kind of equivalent. What is this, like Cape Crusader for Batman, Man of Tomorrow for Superman? That's
exactly what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, what would be the equivalent? Yeah, I feel like Man of Steel and Dark Knight are kind of side by side, and then Cape Crusader and Man of Tomorrow. Yeah, I like that designation. Yeah, certainly. Man of Steel is the most iconic of those designations. Of course, it's already been used. Last Son of Krypton is another key one that I wouldn't be surprised if we see come up at some point. I like Man of Tomorrow. I mean, I guess what it makes me think of, certainly Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, the classic Alan Moore story. During the Triangle era, there was a quarterly book, Superman, the Man of Tomorrow, because 4 books a month, it was just not enough. There were those fifth weeks, we needed another book, so we had this quarterly one.
That was the one that didn't quite last, right? Like that died first of all of them.
Yeah, but I mean, It only came out a few times a year, but so I think it ran maybe 14 issues, but that's still a good number of years given how infrequently it came out. But that was the first to go. That was the first. It was hard. I mean, I feel like it was hard for that book to really carve out an identity, only coming out every few months.
3 months, yeah.
Yeah, but there was some good stuff in that title. So, yeah, whatever happened, and that Triangle Era title, I mean, that's really what comes to mind. And then in All-Star Superman, that line when Superman is dying, he's having his vision of Jor-El, and Jor-El is like, you have shown them the face of the man of tomorrow. That comes to mind as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. And isn't that in Doomsday Clock, right, as well? So Mr. Manhattan.
Yes.
Mr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan, call him the man. I've seen the face of the man of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, to me, that's more mythic.
Yes.
And inspiring than like Man of Steel, which is badass and cool. But Man of Tomorrow is like mythic and inspiring, right? So I like that. And again, if you're wondering on Smallville, right, Clark uses it as a slogan to run for class president. He got it from Lex, so I think that's a fun little, like that is a perfect kind of like, let's weave in some mythology stuff in early Smallville. Like that's just a fun undercover thing right there as well. So yeah, but bring back, I am all for this. Please don't change this title. I'll be so mad. If I get so excited about this title, they change it. I don't think they will. Because I think, Anthony, it might prefer to Lex Luthor and not Superman.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that title opens up that question. Well, but then that leads to this. So if it is truly just the Man of Tomorrow or Man of Tomorrow and Superman is not in the title, is that too undercover a title, or does it not matter? That logo is going to be everywhere. It won't really matter. The symbol, I mean. We
had a movie called Man of Steel and it did pretty well. So
true.
I think The Dark Knight, I mean, I know Batman and that moniker is more popular than Superman and that moniker, right? But I think those movies have proven you can get away with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Plus, look, the whole motto these days officially is truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. So we have a nice little tie in there. Yeah, I mean, I think it works. No, like I said, overall, I had a very positive reaction. The audience knows I enjoyed the movie that we got a couple of months ago. And so Gunn has earned a fair amount of goodwill from me. Still, I'm not here saying we're feasting, let him cook, any of that business. But he's earned some goodwill, so I'm open-minded. Going back to all of this business about what we thought we might be getting an announcement of, like, what were you expecting?
Oh, well, I guess I expected them to wait until Supergirl came out, maybe see how that did. I mean, I don't think Clayface's performance has any bearing on where they take the Superman saga, as they're starting to call it now. But yeah, I think I was waiting for after Supergirl came out, and honestly, I was kind of like, oh, good, like we can just it's our mutual friend Michael Bailey has called it kind of exhausting, all this stuff about the movie coming out. He was looking forward to the lull in between, and I totally agree. I was like, you know what? Let's take a couple years off from this. We have Supergirl, which is, of course, Superman adjacent. I think we all can predict that Superman himself will be in that film, maybe just for 2 minutes, like she was in his. Totally fine. But other than that, there's not all this discourse and the speculation and everything. So part of me is like, come up for a breath of fresh air, right? But the other part of me is like, I'm glad they're just continuing to keep things moving. And that's what I've always been saying about these movies. Like, that was our frustration at the end of the last regime. It's like, so what are we doing with Superman here? Is he just going to be a shadow over here and no face over here, or this or that? And just the character is officially out of limbo. And I know it's like obvious that he already had a movie and he's out of limbo, but like, no. Like, he had a movie. He's having a adjacent character to him, and Supergirl, she's having a movie. And then he's having another movie that he plays a big role in, whether it's Superman 2 or not, coming out the next year. So that shows movement. That shows universe building. I support it. Keep moving.
Yeah, it's funny because when I shared this on social media, I think there was someone on X who was like, 2 years is too short a time frame for a sequel. And in my mind, it's like, well, same director and writer, same cinematographer, they announced, all the roles are cast. It's not like we're starting from scratch. So I feel like this is feasible. And then I think it was in our Facebook group where someone commented and they said they hope it gets delayed so that it can coincide with Superman's 90th anniversary or something like that. And I was like, these things get delayed enough on their own. We don't need to wish for it. Like, we don't need to wish for that.
I mean, Superman 4 came out in 87. They should have waited until 88. Like, you can't control this stuff. Yeah, we don't have to wish any delays on anything. These things just, as you said, they happen as they are. I saw somebody made a great point about, oh, it's too quick. I'm like, you know what else came out 2 years after the first one? Spider-Man 2, one of the greatest comic book films of all time, undisputed, I think. And that was 2 years because it had the same, like those wheels are turning, right? The same creative team, the cast, everything. You just got to add. And if Lex is maybe Superman is the villain of Lex's movie or vice versa, right? You don't even need to cast like a new character or villain or whatever. Who knows what that's going to be? But so like it's like 90% in place already. So that's why this quick turnaround does not concern me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to answer the question I posed to you as far as what I thought they were going to announce, I don't know. I guess, especially with Zaslav's comment about the super family, I guess I was figuring some sort of Superman, Supergirl team up thing. I mean, I figured it would be pretty Superman forward, regardless of exactly what form it took. I didn't think it was going to be World's Finest. I know that's something that's been bandied about. Although, it's one of those, I mean, I feel like this came up in one of the interviews with Gunn, and someone said like, oh, it's not going to be a Batman versus Superman thing. And he was like, no. But then I was saying to myself, well, is that because it's going to be a Batman and Superman? And that's his way around that. But I figured it was going to be pretty Superman centric, I guess.
Yeah. And Supergirl very well may show up. I mean, that'd be logical. It would be illogical for her not to be, and depending on what her state is at the end of her film. But it seems logical to just kind of build towards this with like, this is some sort of unofficial Superman trilogy. You have Superman, Supergirl, they converge together like Luthor's in it. Like that makes a lot of logical sense to me. But yeah, I think any news like this is good news if you're a Superman fan, because the last place you want, see, love, hate, or in between, which I'm kind of in between of the last movie, just keep making the movies, keep making them, and we'll see if they're good or bad. That has been my stance for years now.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, even though I enjoyed it, it wasn't 100% everything I would have wanted or I would have done if it were up to me, but it worked the way I wanted it to work. It gave me that feel that I was hoping for, and just to have a plan and movement really counts for a lot these days.
Yeah, 100%.
You mentioned our mutual friend in podcasting, Michael Bailey, and yeah, he's posted about this fatigue he's feeling with the overall discourse. And I recorded something for the George Reeves show with him recently. We were talking about it, and I said, I feel so bad that he's so weary from the discourse, because I feel like I've largely missed a lot of it. Like I've been paying attention to the people in our circles who I want to hear from, right, but I've not been seeking out much more beyond that. And I feel like I've skipped a lot, and I think I'm better off for it. I mean, you're far more active and far better at the social media side of things than I am. But yeah, what's your I mean, these viral tweets, millions of impressions, my God. But what's your impression been of the discourse?
Oh, I think the discourse is the same as I could have guessed it would have been 5 years ago. I mean, there's no decisions have already been made. Battle lines have been drawn. They continue across those same lines. Like that's the kind of the way I see it. But it is, stuff gets old after a while. It does get old and exhausting. I'm tired of seeing that monkey gif. I knew that was going to be all over the internet when that was in the movie. I'm tired of seeing that. I'm tired of seeing the same certain things from certain circles on all sides. Okay. But no, it's nothing that I didn't already expect and could have predicted already. So, but you're right. You gotta just follow what you like and, tune out what you don't. It's part of, that's part of it, right? The fun of social media is there's a lot of nonsense on there, but then you kind of find stuff you like too. And you just got to sift through it. And that's just how it is. Like, yeah. So I don't find it so suffocating that I'm like, I'm just going to quit my account today and not talk about this stuff anymore. But yeah, I do know, I am present minded. Like, if I say this, I know who's going to say this when I say that and that sort of thing. You got to play that whole game if you want. But no, on the whole, social media really connects us all, right? Especially when we're doing these podcasts and you want to find people and see takes and responses and stuff. Like it's a great, I mean, there's a reason why, it is what it is. And it's the good, I don't know. Does the good outweigh the bad? Social media. I was almost said that. I'm not sure, but I'm happy to have it connect us all.
Yeah. I really just got to a point with this movie, and I don't say this in an arrogant or close-minded way, and I hope it doesn't come off that way, but I guess I just feel like secure enough with my take on the movie that it's like, hey, if I come across some influencer giving their take and going on, it's like, all right, maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't, maybe I'll agree, I'm not going to get worked up over it. But that's kind of where I left it, and I felt good about that. But speaking of the feelings about the movie, so do you feel the same that you did essentially when we did our ranking? Has your view shifted at all?
No, it has not shifted at all. I'm kind of where I am in the middle. Like, it was like, oh yeah, it's fine. I didn't love it. It was, everybody, every quote unquote everybody, a large majority of the people, as you said, like in our circles and all that, really do enjoy it, right? And I'm happy for that, and I'm happy to engage and discuss and debate. And I just want to be able to have conversations about it and not have people shut you down either way, right? And like you said, people are trying to prove something. I'm like, I don't want to get in those arguments or discussions with people. I just want to kind of, hey, I thought this. What do you think? Oh, that's interesting. Having those conversations. So, I did see it again. And I pretty much thought the same things as after the first time, because last time we talked and did our ranking episode, our highly controversial ranking episode,
yeah, we really offended.
I'd only seen it once.
We really offended your best friend and our mutual friend Lance Laster by including the versions of Justice League in that. I did not think that was going to be so controversial.
I know. I will. I mean, when Man of Tomorrow comes out, Anthony, let's do it again, because I do honestly, if I could have an amendment to that, like I rank the George Reeves movie higher than I probably should have, because I really have an affinity for that show, especially those early seasons. And I was like, oh, they were trying their best, and but honestly, rewatchability. I'm going to watch Superman 3 and 4 far more than that. Should be last. I mean, over Justice League, of course.
Yes.
But that goes without saying. But that's one specific thing. I'm like, I should have put that underneath 3 and 4. But all that to say, it's Superman. James Gunn Superman is still kind of in the middle for me. But that's why I'm like, oh, good, a sequel. Maybe that can I'm in the place where I hope they lean into. I hope they don't lean into stuff I didn't like. That's kind of the one thing I might be afraid of, of a sequel. I hope they kind of tighten some screws and flesh out some characters and give us more of the things I was looking for, like Clark of the Daily Planet, Lois and Clark and Superman together, right? The Daily Planet staff, Lex Luthor Superman interactions. And if nothing else, I know we're going to get a lot of Lex and Superman together. Maybe we're reading too much into this. Well, I would say these 3 pieces of artwork. But if you're going to promote your movie like that, that's what I'm going to expect. So I do. Yeah. Even though I was more lukewarm than I had wanted to be, and how most of our other friends are in these circles, I am looking forward to this sequel. So that's where I am on it. And I hope it can, to me anyway, improve my opinion of Lex Luthor.
How fitting that you said you hope they tighten the screws when we have imagery of Superman holding a screwdriver.
Literally tighten the screws.
I have not watched it in full again since it first came out. When I saw it the 2 times in that first week, I've not watched it again, but I've pre-ordered the 4K physical release. So that'll be coming. Yeah. That's when I'll watch it again. But they did put the first 10 minutes on YouTube, and I showed that to my son, who's 6 now. He liked it, and it was fun to watch it with him. So that's the other thing. By the time Man of Tomorrow comes out, he'll be 8. And I'm like, oh, we can go and watch it. So I'm very excited for that. But yeah, overall, I feel the same that I think I did the first 2 times around. The only quibble that really remains for me is with respect to Clark's views towards his Earth parents. I guess I just would have liked it unpacked a little bit more in the movie, why he seemingly discounted their influence as much as he did. And I feel like as far as why he put so much stock in the Kryptonian message, I feel like that we can account for. That was his only, well, other than his cousin and his robots and his dog, his only tangible connection to his home, or at least to his parents, to his birth parents.
Yeah.
But I would like to have gotten a little more insight into why it seems like he doesn't visit Jonathan and Martha that much. Why doesn't seem like he wants to spend a ton of time with them on the phone. Why he needs to have that whole journey. Why, when Lois asks, why does he do what he does? Why it was just the message that he gravitated towards. That's what I would have liked to see accounted for a little bit more.
Yeah. It was kind of, I don't want to say half baked, but I'm like, that relationship was never really defined, I guess, for us. So when he goes back there because he's sick and beat up, and then he leaves, and I don't know, look, I mean, him, his parents on the phone, it's like, look, we all have those times, yeah, okay, gotta go, mom, or whatever, right? So that's kind of what I chalk that up to, hey, don't forget to call or visit, or so I didn't see that in the moment. I was like, his parents are at a distance, but like you zoom out and you look at the journey, like you said, the journey of the film, like maybe that is because at the end it seems like, see, he's finally accepted the kids are his parents. I'm like, oh, I thought he thought that all along.
And that was the first time I watched it. That was the reaction I had. And I think I talked about this in one of the episodes because one of our audience members, Tim, he had messaged pointing that out, like the line about, oh, it's been a minute since you've called or visited. And I remember saying to Tim, I'm like, oh, like I didn't put much stock in that. But then watching it again, I was like, oh yeah, no, that is kind of his arc. So I would have liked that unpacked a bit more. But you know, when you and I did our ranking, you know, you shared the things that you bumped up against with the movie. And it seems like the biggest thing was Lex, you know, kind of a lack of depth with respect to his motivation, a relatively limited interaction between him and Superman.
Yeah.
And as I said then, I'll reiterate now, like, it's not that I disagree with you. I mean, I think that we've definitely seen in the previous big screen version and certainly Smallville instances where we've had a deeper, more complex motivation and backstory for Lex and Clark with respect to Smallville. So what we get here, I think, is a bit more superficial, but it's not out of step with what we've gotten in other Superman stories across media. So I think that's why it didn't bug me as much. The other thing too, and pointing towards Man of Tomorrow here, is that I think one of the other things that made me a little bit more forgiving is the hope and the expectation that the next film will dig in deeper. And the fact that it seems to be very Superman and Lex-centric, it does give me some confidence that we'll get that. So I think, just like with the Daily Planet staff, wanted a whole lot more. That was another complaint that I had, but it's like, okay, they're on the board. We can do more with them now. So that's why, like, I hope that we get more with Lex.
Well, I mean, that's, as Superman fans, we're gun shy about this because twice now, and yes, I know Man is still at BVS and Justice League, blah, 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 but Superman Returns existed and there was no sequel, right? Man of Steel came out, and yeah, you had continuations in the universe, and BVS obviously has, you know, the Daily Planet staff release and stuff, but no straight up Superman sequel. So we've been conditioned to be like, well, one and done, no guarantees, everybody. So yeah, I think, you know, in retrospect, if they continue to make these and they make Lex, to me anyway, a more three-dimensional, compelling character, then I can look back on the first and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because I think, and I honestly, I don't know if we said this or if I've even said this on microphone with you or on my show or whatever. Somewhere I've said this, I know. But I think what it was for me about Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor is he's clearly Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor. He's clearly doing that take on the character. I'm like, well, I mean, no one's going to beat Michael Rosenbaum at that take on the character. That's why I can more readily accept these other, like the John Cryer is different, right? Michael Cullis is different. Jesse Eisenberg is different. Like, I can't just squint and say, oh, look, you're doing the Rosenbaum thing. Like, but he is. Nicholas Hoult is, and he's a fan of Smallville. He grew up watching Rosenbaum, of course. Like, totally makes sense why he would take that approach. I think it's a great approach to take. He's the best Lex Luthor as far as I'm concerned. So that's what makes it's kind of like imposter, like, hey, you're not, how dare you stand where he stood kind of situation, right? As opposed to an Eisenberg who's radically different, and there's no way you're ever going to like confuse the two of those. So we'll see. This can maybe, Anthony, this can give me what I always wanted on Smallville was like, oh, they have to work together to defeat a greater enemy. I'm like, that would be the ultimate Smallville series finale if I could rewrite it. Well, for a lot of things I'd change, but Superman and Lex having to work together to defeat fill in the blank villain, right? And that's compelling and something we haven't seen before in live action, especially on the big screen.
Yeah, and look, obviously all we can do at this point is speculate, but looking at the art that we have, you can't help but assume that, yeah, there is some sort of evolution, some turn where we go from them physically fighting at odds to having to work together in some capacity. And look, one of my favorite episodes of Smallville is Nemesis from season 6, when Clark and Lex, they're no longer friends, but they're trapped underground with kryptonite. They have to work together. I mean, I always wanted more of that. So, yes. This would be great. Yes, I really wish that the movie had given them a backstory, a past in Smallville together.
Yeah.
But, we didn't go down that road. But, thinking back to that big speech that Superman gives at the climax of the movie about how he's as human as anyone and he tries and he makes mistakes all the time, but that's what it means to be human. And that's my greatest strength. And I hope that one day you realize it's yours too. That bit about, I hope one day you realize, maybe this next movie will be the day. I mean, I always see the best. I always hope for the best in Lex, no matter how many times I get burned with this character. But I always hope for the best. So I don't know. Like, I'm very intrigued. I'll say that. I'm very intrigued.
With a hopeful finish.
Always that hopeful
as Clark
finish,
always
man.
says, Lex. Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for as well. And I think they could do something really special here with these guys. Now, I mean, you think at other superhero franchises, and it's not, it's not always, but sometimes it's like, what do you do next? You have the villain from the first movie like have to team up, like X2, right? Magneto has to team up with the X-Men for a limited amount of time in the film to fight Stryker, who's the bad guy in that one. And so it's not, it can be a real fun formula because it remixes situations. And yeah, I mean, as fun as it is on Smallville to see Clark and Lex be friends, it's also very intriguing to see them be enemies, but then have to work together. And as you said, that's very rare because by the time the relationship had deteriorated, then like Rosamund left the show. So it's like, well, you're not going to give them any more opportunities. Just no amnesia, please. No mind wipes. And keep that away from this Lex Luthor, please. By all means, none of that. Do you think he's going to find out a secret identity in this, or is it going to be just straight up Superman Lex team up?
I hope he finds out the secret identity and that there's no mind wipe. Been burned on that before. but yeah, I mean, I've said this so many times, but yeah, no, I mean, I think we can swear why Lex would keep that to himself and not blow up Clark's life. And I think it just makes it more interesting. So yeah, I mean, I would really like to see that. It's funny because I was thinking back on the movie and I'm like, I don't know, could there still have been some past between them and Smallville? Like, does the movie completely close the door on that? But there is that bit where Lex is talking about the reporter you're always giving stories to, Clark Kent, right? And I feel like the way he says it, there's no sense of recognition there, and certainly nothing from Superman's part at any point through the movie. So I don't think there's anything there.
Well, the way the DCU has embraced comic book just grab bag continuity, they could really retcon some stuff and just have like flashbacks to like, oh, I guess they were friends or something. Like, not that they would do that.
Right.
I don't think they would, but the possibility always exists because it is such a blank slate in the first movie. There are certain things you said people might react differently, but that's a retcon I wouldn't complain about if they just decide to start giving us some flashbacks.
Yeah, I think we let that slide. Be all right.
I would. I really would.
It's funny, for as much as we pick these things apart, all these objections, but with that, we'd be like, oh, it's okay. Look, we have to smooth that over.
Very just like that, right? There's no continuity either, So anyway, yeah. I mean, so that's exciting. We're less than two. Who would have thought? Who would have thought 2 months ago that we'd be less than 2 years away from another Superman movie?
I mean, 3 super related movies in 3 summers. Amazing.
Never been done before.
Truly amazing.
What a time to be alive.
One of the other big picture things I got to get your take on, the war suit itself.
Oh,
because the war suit's funny to me. And I was refreshing my memory on the history of it. So it debuted in the pages of Action Comics 544 in 1983. The anniversary issue was the 45th anniversary of Action 1. And the story was called Luthor Unleashed. And that anniversary issue refreshed Luthor in one half of the issue and refreshed Brainiac in the other. And that's the story where Lex dons the armor in the comics for the first time. But the design was for the Kenner line of Superpowers action figures. And so George Perez had designed this new armored look. And that
was George Perez. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Interestingly, on one of the wikis, there was a note about it actually being Jack Kirby who had designed it, and then Perez modified it, but he got sole credit. But I cannot, you know what they say about Wikipedia, right? Anyone in the world can write anything about any subject, so you're getting the best information. I'd have to dig into that more. But Perez is the one who's been credited with that.
Yeah.
So it debuted first in the comics, but was designed for the Kenner line of action figures, and then appeared on the Superpowers cartoon in 1984, which was the same year that the action figures came out. It's one of those weird things where, again, we're talking from 83 to, 86, because once we get out of the Crisis on Infinite Earths event and we enter the post-Crisis era of the Superman books.
Wow, yeah.
That's gone. So it's like a relatively short period with this armor, but clearly between the time it had in the comics and that action figure and the cartoon, although what's funny is there were only a couple seasons left of Super Friends. Like, there wasn't a ton of Lex in that suit.
Yeah,
in that time.
He's running around in that stupid purple, like, anything to get him out of that.
Exactly.
Green pants, purple collar thing. Yeah.
But I feel like it was that action figure probably more than anything, which I have in the case behind me, and they did a Funko Pop of it, which I have as well. But I feel like that cemented in so many people's minds. But yeah, then, I mean, it was largely off the board, although we would get different versions of Lex in armor. So even in Byrne's Man of Steel.
Yeah, that robotic police force. They try to bait and switch you, thinking he's holding up Lex, and he's just talking to him. And yeah, that's a clever way to weave that back in.
Exactly. And then by the time we get to post Death of Superman, Team Luthor, this is Lex Luthor II with the red hair, and he's wearing a suit of armor, but it's not a green war suit. So for the most part, like, this was done away with for pretty much the whole time you and I were coming up as Superman fans. And then we get to Public Enemies and Superman Batman, and all of a sudden he's in that again. And I feel like since then, it's popped up a ton in comics and other media. But so what is your take on it? Do you like the idea of Lex getting in a war suit and duking it out?
I like that as like late stage Lex Luthor. I mean, that's the journey though. The post crisis, like, people don't understand. I mean, we were young enough where we don't even appreciate how convoluted it was. But like we think the post crisis Lex Luthor is like the DC animated universe Lex Luthor, where it's like, oh yeah, he was a business guy, and then Superman busted him, and then he was an outlaw, and then he got this suit, and then he ran for president. Right? That's why the DCAU is the gold standard. It just distills all this stuff into a perfect, arc. But I don't think he should be in this suit until like it's a last resort. My favorite Lex Luthor is, he uses the establishment, right? The power of money, politics, business against Superman, something that he can't fight. That's what makes him such a compelling villain. Also, the public needs to see him as a good guy. That's frustrating to Superman. I love all of that. Now, eventually, we want to see the guys, engage in fisticuffs, as you say, on your other podcast. But that's why Public Enemies was great, because it all came crashing down. He's like, you know what? Screw it. Time for the battle suit. And they fight. And that's a great way to bring it back. And then, of course, even in the New 52 and Forever Evil, he has I love that arc. And he's basically like leading the villains against the Earth 3 villains. And he's in his suit. I'm like, that's great use of the suit. So like, to me, that again, late stage Lex Luthor. Now, I'm over here saying I can't wait to see him in the second movie of this franchise wearing the suit. So, but movies are an accelerated thing, as we learned in the last franchise. Am I right? So we have to accelerate these things quickly. So, yeah, you remember on Smallville in season 8 where we had there was the schematic of the Prometheus suit. I'm like, oh my god, it's the Lex Luthor battle suit. I was so hyped. And then that was Mark 1 and Mark 2 was subdermal, under the skin. I'm like, what a cop out, Smallville. That is one of those Smallville things you've ever done, is to make the Lex Luthor battle suit something that's under your skin that Lana can wear. So the very long-winded answer to your question, I guess I like it, but in specific circumstances.
I mean, ultimately, I echo that. I mean, I remember, and I've talked about this, reading Public Enemies for the first time and just being so used to the evil businessman Lex, who engages with Superman intellectually and can never be brought to justice, is able to keep everything above board as far as the public and the law are concerned. And that's the way he challenges Superman. And I remember getting to that in Public Enemies, where he's been injecting himself with that concoction of kryptonite and bane venom, and he's deranged, and he gets in the suit. And I was like, what is this at the time? But revisiting it, I've basically come around to where you are, where it's like, yeah, as sort of that final stage, like you take the evil businessman version as far as you can, and then there's an opportunity to really have that final physical confrontation. And that's where I've landed. And so I'm way more open to it now than I was before. And yeah, I mean, the DCAU used it. The John Cryer iteration of Lex and the Arrowverse had it.
He did.
The final season of Superman and Lois, it wasn't green, but we finished with Michael Cudlitz as Lex in a battle suit.
And we thought for the first few episodes of that show, that was a Lex Luthor in a green battle suit. So
exactly. So I think as sort of that final phase, and used sparingly. So if Nicholas Holt's Lex becomes a la Tony Stark, and he's just in this now all the time in the DCU, I'm really going to dislike. That's going to be my problem. But if this is now
that you said that, I think that's exactly I swear to God, I don't want to see one shot of him with the heads up display on his face.
Oh my God. Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, to have these two guys together in whatever capacity that this imagery seems to be indicating, if we get to the point where maybe there is some deeper past that we haven't known yet between them, interesting. If Lex finds out the secret, if they're forced to work together, if we just get more of that three-dimensional view of the character that you've been calling for, and that I do agree with as well. I think that would go a long way, and I think could really be a very compelling movie. Like, I'm excited.
Here's the setup, and if they don't do this, it's fine. But it's just coming to me. They love All-Star Superman so much, right? The first scene, because we got to get Clark Kent out of this movie as quickly as possible. We know that.
Yes.
So the first scene in the movie is Clark is interviewing Lex Luthor in jail, and there's some catastrophe. So then Lex has to, him and Clark go on an adventure, and then he has to reveal he's Superman, and he takes him to a secret lab with this portal technology that he can get to, which has the battle. So there it is. It writes itself, really. As much as I am on every microphone on every podcast, I want more Clark Kent stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm gone. First scene, just never again. Don't even worry about it. That's not a bad setup if they want to do it that way. You want to force them in a situation where they unexpectedly have to work together somehow. I mean, there's 100 ways to do it, but I just know how much they love All-Star Superman. So that's I think that's a great, like, yeah, let's see Clark interviewing Lex Luthor in prison. Let's lean into that. That's something they never, obviously John Cryer left. John Shea left Lois and Clark. And then like came back very sporadically, but he came back and we salute him for it. But like, man, what a missed opportunity for stories to like go interview Lex in prison and Hannibal Lecter it up, like do that kind of stuff. So that could be a setup for this Lex.
Are you saying the frog eating clones were not sufficient for you? What more do you want, man?
So there you go. There's 100 ways they could do it. I love what are your favorite two comic characters? Superman and Lex Luthor. Probably because of Smallville. If you asked me before Smallville, I would have said Batman, of course. But Superman and Lex Luthor are my favorite two comic characters. And if they're going to be co-leads of a movie, I am going to give it a chance.
Last Warsuit question. Do you have any preferences as to where the armor comes from? Because going back to that original 1983 comic, he discovered it on the planet Lexor that had embraced him as its hero. And then by the time we get to Public Enemies, if I'm not mistaken, because this was after our Worlds at War, I believe it was a product of Apocalypse technology, if I'm not mistaken. So do you want this something that he just full on built himself, or would you want it to point towards Apocalypse or some sort of wider corner of the DCU?
No, he should. I believe this Lex Luthor seems pretty tech savvy, right? So I think he should build it for himself. Now, if they want to have some kind of Easter egg in there, sure. I don't think it's necessary though. But then we're getting too close to Tony Stark territory. So maybe not Anthony, but no, I think he should do it. Should it have like the logo? That's what people don't. Lex Luthor has a logo. Nobody even really realized this. It's so funny if you look at as I recently have, because I wrapped up Always on the Smallville recently, the series finale. They have a promo, specifically Lex Luthor promo, and they play the Superman the movie like music, and you hear Michael Rosenbaum. It's like, I'm not just any man, I'm Lex Luthor, right? And it shows the logo for the battle suit. I was like, what kind of false advertising is this? Not that I thought in a million years we get the battle suit in the series finale. I'm just saying like that exists, and it's only because of this toy and this superpowers thing. I would keep it on there just because it gives him some identity, because Superman's got a thing on his chest. Let's have Lex Luthor have a thing on his chest, right? And then you can play like that envy thing. Like he is envious, no blank, I'm envious.
Yeah.
So,
I still do love that. Well, kind of as a segue here. So we got a bunch of submissions from our patrons here, which we can go through. Oh, cool. So Julie says, I'm sure the Warsuit in the art won't be the final product, but I'm still glad it was included in all three promo pieces. So yeah, I mean, a little bit of an open question. We don't know exactly what it will look like, assuming it appears at all, though I would imagine would it be that much of a bait and switch? That would be crazy.
Well, the fact that we see David Cornsweat's Superman costume there leads me to think it's going to be, if not that, a slight variation of that suit that we see, right? Yeah.
Well, and also the way Lex got thrashed by Krypto in the last one, it's like it stands to reason he would be like, all right, I gotta armor myself. Julie continues, I'm curious if the film is going to match the vibe of the first film or go out of its way to be different, both structurally and pacing-wise. It might be better for establishing the brand if Man of Tomorrow matched Superman, since horror films like Clayface will show how varied the DCU will be. I would be very surprised if this diverged from the previous Superman movie in any significant structural or aesthetic way, is my view.
James Gunn comic book movies are all the same vibe. So you're going to get that same vibe in the next one. I would be shocked if it was a different tone.
Yeah. And then Jeff echoes what I was saying before. He said, I think it's awesome that they used actual comic book art to accompany this announcement. We're so used to getting a slick logo on a black background and using that to try to glean anything we can. But this time we have art from top comic artists showing off not just hints of the movie, but celebrating the comic book roots of the new DCU. I'm so glad we're seeing someone at the head of the studio who actually reads and understands superhero comics. This is so friggin' nitpicky, but I'm like, I love all three artists who were used. So it's not like I would want to knock one of them out, but I'm like, Dan Mora, man, like Dan Mora has been killing it on World's Finest and Superman. It's like, I wouldn't have minded seeing something from him, but
absolutely. He's one of the best in the business,
but all of them were great. So I can't complain there. All right, let's see. This next one here is from William, who says, the war suit is ridiculous and I'm all for it. In a way, I think the general audience will be more accepting of it because for almost 20 years, they've seen Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, another billionaire in a tech suit that flies. All I want from Man of Tomorrow is an adaptation of the scenes from All-Star where Lex has triggered the prison break during his interview with Clark and Clark is using his powers without Lex seeing.
There it is. No, that would be great. No, I would be surprised if they don't do something like that, honestly. So we'll see.
I mean, going back to what you were saying before about that imagery of Superman sitting on the cloud being used constantly when Superman Legacy was first announced, it's like, clearly it's an influence that he has cited so many times. So
they could have so easily released, like, I'm sure there's a panel they could have picked from All-Star Superman of Lex behind the glass and Clark sitting there and interview him. They could have released that as the image, but they chose not to. They chose to do original art, and I cannot thank them enough.
Martin says, I liked Nicholas Hoult in Superman, but don't want to see Lex in the next one. I'm sick of the amount of Lex we get in Superman adaptations. Give us Brainiac, Terraman, Silver Banshee, Maxima, anyone but Lex.
Well, I got a show for you, sir, that has most of those villains you just described.
Martin's not the biggest Smallville fan. He joined me for the Pete Ross episode, and but I don't know. Maybe our conversation and the homework he did for that, maybe that'll spark more of a dive into the series.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. That thought also did cross my mind though about Lex again, huh? Like, did that cross your mind at all? I mean, because what is the criticism of like the average movie? Oh, Lex Luthor's on again, or clone of Superman? Because if you go down the list of all the Superman movies, is either Lex Luthor, a Kryptonian, or some sort of clone of Superman is like the villain 80% of the time. So is there a Lex Luthor fatigue that you're concerned about? Are you more excited about the potential of what they could do with the character that overrides it?
The latter. I mean, for me, I'm not worried about that because I love the character. And like we've been talking about, I think there's a lot more work to do with this version. So I want to see that work done. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're reading a lot into that Jim Lee art, but it's like, yeah, if there's something that causes their interest to align in any way, presumably it's some other villain. So that opens the door. So I think there's potential to have Lex, yet also bring in someone new. I mean, I was really thinking about this, especially after reading the question. So looking at the first movie, there's the Hammer of Boravia, there's the Kaiju, there's Ultraman. There were 3 instances in that movie where they could have plugged in. I mean, Hammer of Boravia, that was very specific and obviously tied to that conflict that they were dealing with. So maybe not that one so much, but it's like the Kaiju could have been Metallo. Ultraman could have truly been Bizarro. Like, there were opportunities in that movie. They could have actually sprinkled in other villains. So my hope is that in the next one and future movies that they'll take those opportunities to do. Look, I know The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not people's favorite Spider-Man movie, but it's like, I'll stand by those Andrew Garfield movies. But I love the fact that Rhino just popped up at the beginning and the end, and he was not the villain of the piece, but it's like, hey, they got Rhino in there, a little different version of him, but whatever, Paul Giamatti, I'll take it. Like, I want to see more stuff like that. Like, throw in Metallo, throw in Parasite. If you're not going to do a whole movie around them, you can still kind of plug them in. So I think there's a way to build out Lex more, but also at least sprinkle in some of these other villains.
Yeah. The B and C listers that cannot hold their own in a full movie for sure.
Aw Yeah Comics celebrates everything that is wonderful about comics, toys, artwork, and the joy they bring to people. Visit them in person at one of their 3 locations: Harrison, New York, Muncie, Indiana, or Skokie, Illinois, home to our pal, Sweet Sweet Bernie. If you have children and have been looking for a family-friendly store, look no further. Join Aw Yeah for exciting events, including creator signings, how-tos, and more. Visit awyeahcomics.com and follow them on social media. Their name says exactly how they feel about it. Say it with me now. Aw yeah. We all love the big-budget superhero films, but the world of independent cinema remains a place of unbridled creative freedom and entrepreneurial spirit. Whether you're an independent filmmaker yourself or you just love movies, don't miss these New Jersey film festivals: Brightside Tavern in Jersey City, Hang On to Your Shorts in Asbury Park, and Round Reel in Bloomfield. Submission information for filmmakers can be found at filmfreeway.com. Follow the festivals on social media for news about events, discounts, tickets, and much more. As a Superman fan, have you ever wondered what would happen if a person who knew barely anything about comics decided to absorb hundreds of Superman stories from all eras and media? Robbo is that kind of person, and that's exactly what he's done on a new show called This Podcast Will Never Die. The first season, called Superman Will Never Die, starts with the unexpected ways the Man of Steel stood out from the pulp heroes on the newsstands in 1938. Listen and subscribe to This Podcast Will Never Die, and you'll never look at Superman's trunks the same way again. We love digging into epic comic book runs, but what about the art of the single issue? Single Bound is a new podcast series hosted by married couple Amy and Logan as they review single issues of comics. And if the title also makes you think of Superman, you're not alone, as the Man of Steel is Logan's favorite character and a regular topic of discussion on Single Bound. Listen and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube, and follow the show on Instagram at Single Bound Podcast. And then let's see, we have one more here that I think will kind of segue us to the final main segment of our episode here, kind of taking stock of the DCU slate, as it were. So Brian Dempsey says, my biggest concern coming out of Superman this summer was the fact that Gunn already announced his plans for Gods and Monsters, and there wasn't room for a sequel in any form. I know it's not being billed as a direct sequel, but I'm excited we're getting more stories with Superman. What are your opinions of modern Hollywood's approach of announcing projects far in advance? For the DCU, some have already been shelved. Do you think it's an admirable goal or setting themselves up to fall short in the eyes of fans? Do you think the general public or the cultish fans are the ones driving these phase announcements? So, yeah, I mean, just big picture. Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about getting these announcements like so far in advance?
I don't like it. I think it's designed to generate hype. And I think, quality generates hype. Make a good movie. People are excited for the next movie. That's all there is to it, right? That's all there is to it. And it's not just DC, right? Look over what Star Wars has been doing. How many canceled projects are over there, right? So you announce this, you want to look like you know what you're doing. So you announce the giant plan, and then you just look like a fool when you have to cancel half of it. It's just because what is to be gained there, right? The return is not worth it because again, if you have to cancel 2 or 3 of these things, people are going to be talking mess to you like, hey, where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Which we're about to do in a few minutes here. At least I am. So yeah, please don't do that. No, of course. Hey, so we got a trilogy planned, right? We're going to do this and then we're going to see where it goes. Like, just have what they used to do, I guess, like 15 years ago. Just do that. Whatever they did then, do that. Don't do what they do now. Yeah.
I was reflecting on this. I feel it's tough. I feel like the studios generally and Gunn specifically, they're in a tough spot because if they don't say much, then it's like, well, they don't have a plan. But if they say too much and then it changes, it's like, well, look, they couldn't hold true to their plan. So it's tough. But I agree. I think maybe there's a way to split the difference, maybe keep it a little more general. Also, as I was looking back through Gunn's original announcement, which we're going to run through now, some of the announcements, some of the projects were so specific that it's like, man, if you're saying you're going to do this, you got to really have the pieces in place to do this. As opposed to if he was like, hey, we're going to do a Batman movie, a Superman movie, a Wonder Woman movie, and sequels. I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, he's going to focus on the Trinity and build out and whatnot. But some of these, again, projects, they were so specific that it's like, well, all right, now what happened here? So on this note, I went back through the notes. I watched the original announcement. So it was January 31st, 2023. So over 2.5 years ago.
That is crazy. It's been 2.5 years. It feels like yesterday. Because didn't we record that Patreon podcast like that night or maybe the next day?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
That James Gunn stood in front of that curtain, that burgundy curtain or whatever it was. And for 5 or 6 minutes laid out part of, and I cannot stress enough, part of Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. And I stress that because right after that announcement, you and I did a recording for my Patreon show and we put it up. And in the 2.5 years since, every now and then you'll check in with me and be like, hey, when do you want to do part 2? Do another episode on the slate? And I've been like, well, I was waiting for him to bust out that curtain and do another one of these videos laying out.
No, all jokes aside, like he said, this is part of chapter 1. And we said, oh, when he finishes his announcement, you and I thought like, oh, maybe the end of the year of 2023, but it's become more and more of a joke because I can't believe it's been that long. But not only have we not gotten part 2, part 1 has changed quite a bit.
Yeah. So I watched the video again. And I made my list, so we'll go through. And then, I mean, the interesting thing is there are other projects that have popped up that were not part of that original announcement. Some came and went. It just fell apart. Others are still in the mix. But I guess we'll start with the 10 projects that were actually cited in that original video. And I did a little bit of math. I think we're kind of looking at 4 out of 10 as far as what's come to fruition. But, whether or not
that's a bad percentage, no matter how you got it.
Yeah. All right, so the first one was the Creature Commandos animated series, the first season of which aired on HBO Max a while back and has been renewed for season 2. So Gunn has delivered on that. You still have not watched, correct?
I have not. It just doesn't really interest me, honestly, y'all. Sorry.
I mean, you've seen the Suicide Squad, you've seen Peacemaker, you've seen Guardians. You're probably good. I liked it, though. I mean, we did a Patreon episode with DeVoe. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to watch season 2. Like, I liked it, but I wouldn't be like, no, you have to watch it.
I'll watch it. I'm not boycotting it, just for the record. Okay. I'll get around to it eventually. But when there's other stuff I'd rather interest me more, I'm going to watch that first.
The second project in that video was a Waller television series starring Viola Davis. Now,
the only person who could play Amanda Waller, Viola Davis. No one else.
She's the only person on earth. God forbid Angela Bassett or CCH Pound or anybody else. Pam Grier. No, it has to be her. So the reason why I'm being a little snarky about this is that it really seems like a huge part of the reason why we couldn't have just a full-on hard reboot of the DC cinematic universe was because Viola Davis had to stay on as Amanda Waller. And yes, I guess we will include the Peacemaker crew in that as well. But Waller seemed to be really central to all of this, and they've not been able to get this off the ground. So there was a report, I think it was back in February of this year, of 2025, where a number of projects were cited as being on the back burner, and this was one of them. And the quote from Gunn was that it's been a bumpy road with Waller. So I don't know exactly what obstacles they're running into, but for whatever reason, this is one they've not yet cracked and still remains a question mark as of now.
I don't understand, like, why is that just not Peacemaker or the Suicide Squad 3 or whatever? Because 3, I say 3 because that first Suicide Squad movie becomes more and more in continuity as the DCU continues. I don't but we'll talk about that. Anthony and I are going to talk about Peacemaker one day.
Yes.
Season 2. We'll talk about that. Anyway, it's just like, what is the purpose? And we don't know what it was about, right? But like, what is the purpose of an Amanda Waller TV show if you have a Peacemaker show over here and Suicide Squad movies over there? Like, that's the same thing. Like, I don't just whatever those ideas were. This is what I predict for that, because obviously this has not happened. I don't think it's going to happen now. They're going to fold whatever those ideas are into a Peacemaker season 3. That will be my prediction.
100%. And I think what it should have been from the start anyway, is I feel like Waller is one of those characters. You want her pulling strings. You want her behind the scenes. You want her to appear sporadically in ways that are impactful or surprising. But I feel like building a whole show around her inherently undermines some of the mystique that makes the character interesting. So, I mean, from the jump, this wasn't something that I was like chomping at the bit for. Like, oh, I got to see this Waller series. But yeah, I agree. I imagine those ideas will probably get repurposed elsewhere. If we end up with the full-on Waller series, sure, I'll check it out and do an episode on it, but I don't know.
Now, and this was a live action series, by the way.
Yes.
So, I mean, we had, so of these, there's only been the Creature Commandos was the only planned animated series of this first slate.
Of the first slate, yes. More is going to come, but yeah.
More to come. Yeah. Okay.
All right. The third one was Superman Legacy. But look, although it's titled
Superman Legacy, you say?
Yeah. Look, the title changed, but it you know what? Credit where credit's due. It hit its stated release date. I got to give it that. So that was the third project that Gunn talked about in that video. All right. The fourth one, Lanterns. The Lanterns TV series for HBO Max, starring Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler, described as a True Detective meets Green Lantern. They're Green Lanterns investigating this earthbound murder I think that's the basic setup. And my understanding is that it's been filmed and we should be seeing it next year in 2026.
I'm very excited for that. I was excited for the idea of it to start. I think even I didn't go back and listen to our podcast, but I believe I said this is what I'm most excited about, the Lantern show. And then with the casting, even more so, because love Kyle Chandler, Clear Eyes, Full Hearts Can't Lose, and then Aaron Pierre from Krypton.
Should I say it? I won't say it. People are sick of it.
Say it. People want to hear you say it.
The Sagittari. Yeah, he's great. I mean, he was also, a young son. He's very into Lion King. We went to see the Lion King prequel, Mufasa, and he was the voice of young Mufasa. It was great. I know you and Lance had some strong thoughts on the idea of the Mufasa movie, but the barometer. Here's the thing. When you have a young kid, the barometer is just like, hey, did it hold his interest? Did he sit still? Yeah. Was it a fun way to spend a couple of hours? And yes for us. So
fair enough. Fair enough. Sometimes I'm just a grumpy old man on here. I know. So
no, it's all good. No, you know what though? I had a realization about my Green Lantern fandom as I was thinking about this, because the whole idea of like True Detective meets Green Lantern. And look, we don't know the full scope of this. I mean, we know Guy Gardner's going to pop up in it, but I mean, I don't know how spacefaring it will ultimately end up being, but they've really been talking about it as this earthbound murder mystery. And I've been in a weird position with this because I feel like that's not really kind of making the most of the Green Lantern mythology, but It works for me. I'm really on board with this, but I think a big part of the reason why is that quote unquote, my Green Lantern was Kyle Rayner. And yeah, he would bounce around space from time to time. But most of his adventures during that Ron Mars and Judd Winnick period of that comic book series, largely they were earthbound adventures. So I feel like that really kind of set my baseline for what I look for in a Green Lantern story. So I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need the emotional spectrum. Sorry, Jeff Johns, but like, I'm good. Like, this is fine for me.
Well, and honestly, I haven't read one Green Lantern comic book starring Kyle Rayner. I know most of about Kyle Rayner from Superman the Animated Series. And as the more I learned about it, I was like, wow, they really did that character wrong.
No kidding.
But, that's his own conversation. But I will say, Hard Traveling Heroes, Green Lantern and Green Arrow, right? Yeah. Very Earth-based, one of the most prolific Green Arrow stories of all time. Green Lantern stories too. Takes some inspiration from that, the great Danny O'Neill. So you would think they would sprinkle some of that in there. But it's like, I mean, look, the one official image that's been released is those two guys like walking down a dirt road. So if that's not them, like, backpacking through America, like the comic book was, I don't know what is. So I'm intrigued. I hope it satisfies everybody's needs. I know there's a lot of frustration from people that say Green Lantern, the cosmic policeman, is just going to be hanging out on Earth. I'm like, hey, fair enough. Let's see what they do though, because I was also very skeptical of a show about the Penguin, and that was fantastic. So there you go.
I know that's the thing. And would Kyle Chandler be my instinct for Hal Jordan? No, but my deep love of Friday Night Lights and Early Edition, Justice for Early Edition, transcends any of that. So I'm excited. All right, so bringing us to the halfway point of that first announcement, the Authority movie. Now, obviously, we had the engineer in Superman, but according to that February 2025 report, this is another one of those ones that's been backburnered. And the quote from Gunn was, "It hasn't been much of a priority." So,
dude, you listed off 10 things you were going to do on day one or whatever, and now it's not a priority. The Waller one, you can kind of overlook because like she's obviously a part of Peacemaker, right? Part of that team. Like she's in the universe, right? So that show can kind of just still make sense that you plan on it, but it gets folded into something else. The Authority movie, you injected this engineer character into the Superman movie for no reason other than to set up this movie, and now it's not going to happen. And now she sticks out even more, is in my opinion, an unnecessarily extraneous character in that film. Yes, I know that she decrypted the thing. Anyone could have done that. I understand the plot function they used her for, but having her in the Superman movie, to me anyway, felt like specifically to set up this new movie, which 9 out of 10 people out there don't know what the Authority is. Now, 11 out of 10 people didn't know what Guardians of the Galaxy was, so that's no reason to say don't make the movie. I'm just saying there's not a lot of demand for this Authority. It wouldn't be on my slate to start my DC universe. And we probably both felt the same when the announcement came out. But Yeah. Who know? What do you like? Do you think this is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with this?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, he seemed really enthusiastic about it in that announcement. It's funny. I think that was one of those instances. He's like, they're the marvelous Wildstorm characters. It's like, bro, you got to stop using the word marvelous. It wasn't the only time he did that in the video, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not the best person to answer because I am aware of what a big deal the Authority was in the comics in its day, but I really did not delve into that character, that title. I've read literally just the first arc just to get a tiny bit of a feel for it. I mean, the closest connection I have to it is that the Elite were analogs of that. And obviously what's so funny about Truth, Justice, and the American Way, huge, iconic Superman story. So that's what I think of most when I think of the Authority is this team that was meant to be a stand-in for them, which I feel like they could have just used them anyway in this.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. It's like, but yeah, that makes you think, were they originally going to have the Authority in full in Superman? And they said, let's make like Hawkgirl and Green Lantern instead. If people know them, who knows? But I will say like that James Gunn didn't say he was going to write and direct it.
Right.
But that subject matter, that the Authority, he seems like he would be a good fit for it. So I understand why he would be excited and try to make it.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's one of those ones that, and look, audience, if there's some more recent news that I've somehow missed, you'll let me know. I know you will. But as far as I could find, kind of looking up the status of these projects, that was one of those ones that's still a little bit of a question mark. Next up is Paradise Lost, this television series prequel to Wonder Woman set on Themyscira. Honestly, I really couldn't find much about this currently. This just sort of seems to be still floating out there, but not much of an update one way or the other. Is this something that is particularly appealing to you? By the way, I did not go back to our 2.5-year-old episode either. So I already had this conversation, but I don't remember.
You know what's funny is after we recorded this and this comes out, like I'll probably go back and listen to it now. Just it's a fun time. I probably even said that then. I'm like, this is a fun time capsule. There it is. Past me, future me. Anyway, no, I'm happy that Paradise Lost has been lost, pun intended. Like the interesting thing about those characters is how they come into conflict with the world of man, right? I mean, what are we doing? You're telling me you're going to make a TV show about Superman before he's super. That's totally different. All right. All the people are coming at me now saying Smallville is your favorite show. And that's the thing. To me, a Wonder Woman prequel is very different than a Superman prequel. And I mean, I think everybody understands what I'm trying to say here because he is Superman. He has the powers when he's a kid, and Smallville proved that concept. Paradise Lost, it wasn't even really going to be about Diana. It was just like on the island. Like what happens? What are they doing? Like,
I don't know. I mean, that's not one of the ones that really lit my fire from the outset. Kind of where I am right now, and we'll get to this next category in a few minutes here, but they have been talking about a Wonder Woman movie. I mean, understandably, I don't know how far along it is, but I guess my feeling is, I think you got to get Wonder Woman straight. You got to get Wonder Woman squared away before you do a prequel. Like, you got to know where you're going with this if you're going to be introducing this island and the mythology and the visual language of all of it. I feel like you want to tie those together. So,
that's extremely important in this initiative in the DCU here, where everything is connected, everything is continuity, everything is so like you can't make a show over here and then come out with a movie like, forget that show.
Right.
Which, I mean, they might, but but then if you make a good Wonder Woman movie and you care about it, then we might be interested in seeing those characters again in their own featured thing, right?
So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's the thinking on their end too, where it's like, hey, all right, we're going to prioritize the Wonder Woman movie, and then in success, maybe we'll go back. That's just my conjecture. But it's funny though, when you mentioned about it all being connected, rewatching that video announcement of his in front of the curtain, that was what he started with. He's like, as you know, DC's been disconnected. That's going to change now. It's an interesting note to start on. And that was before, that was before he launched into telling us how great Shazam 2 and Blue Beetle and Flash and Aquaman 2 were. 1 out of 4, I actually agree with him. But
one of those is good. Probably not the one that he would tell you, but one of those, I think one of those is good. So
yeah. All right. So Paradise Lost, another one announced TBD. I know you have strong thoughts on this one.
I have extremely strong thoughts.
Batman Brave and the Bold, starring Bruce and Damian Wayne. He was specific about that, how Damian is his favorite Robin, and that's the Batman. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the 2.5 years since then about whether the Robert Pattinson version of Batman could be integrated into the DCU. It really does not seem like that's going to be the case. So then we've been living in this realm of, okay, having simultaneous Batman on screen. I welcome your thoughts.
Okay, so Andy Muschietti directed The Flash, and The Flash is terrible. So I don't want him doing any more Batman stuff. All right, sorry, it's terrible. It's a terrible movie. So
I don't,
Batman
Zach. I heard that it was the best superhero movie of all time. So I don't know what you're talking about.
To be fair to the quote we make fun of, one of the best superhero movies of all time, according to James Gunn, director and writer of Superman and head of DC Studios. So Batman: The Brave and Bold, this needs to be canceled immediately. No, like, okay. I'm sorry. Like, well, let's take a little bit to talk about this. Batman, a major pillar of DC Comics, very important. They don't f this up, right? So, the Batman exists, right? Comes out, great financial and critical acclaim. They make the Penguin show, great critical acclaim. You can't say financial because it's a streaming service, but it 2 wins, 2-0, right? Hit 2 home runs with those things. We're all clamoring for more The Batman content, and yet like Matt Reeves is like not turning in a script, and there's all kinds of stuff going on around that. Who knows? He finally turned in a script like at the Superman premiere or something, and like we're never going to know until they do the tell-all book in 20 years about this. You cannot tell me that part of the delays for the Batman Part 2 have been like, well, let's see how the DCU does, and now they're like, well, I don't know, like so, like. Announcing this was foolish. Like I just they should have announced any Batman stuff, because what have, like you said, what have we been talking about for 2.5 years? Oh, is Robert Pattinson going to be the Batman? There's enough of that. Just, you have Elseworlds, as he also said in this video, right? Listed off the Batman and the Batman Part 2, which was supposed to come out, according to my notes here, October 3rd, 2025. So I'm looking forward to that next month, by the way. So like, also, like, all due respect to Batman Forever and Batman the movie, I guess, from the 60s, right? Like, can we get like a proper like Dick Grayson, Robin, and Bruce Wayne Batman in a film at some point in time, please, before we jump ahead to Damian Wayne, the fourth Robin? The fourth Robin, everybody? And by the way, that Batman arc they like so much with Damian Wayne in it, you know who's Batman in it? Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson is Batman, not Bruce Wayne, is the one everybody loves so much. So I'm just like, the 1-2 punch of like Andy Muschietti being in this after The Flash, and just the convoluted nature of having a second Batman running around in a different universe. It's just too much, and I don't like it. And the day they actually greenlight this or announce who Batman is going to be a fun day on the internet, my friends. It's going to be chaos everywhere. So that's where I am on it. I just assume fold this and then keep Batman like this guy on the peripheries of the DCU until they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't feel as strongly, but at the same time, I don't really disagree. I think this is, but you know, though it's funny, and you and I have had this conversation, I think even off mic, but this, like, it's one of those things where I wonder how confusing it would actually be for audiences to have a Batman in The Brave and the Bold who is distinct from the Robert Pattinson version, and have movies coming out within a year of each other, theoretically. Because it's, as I'm saying, I'm like, that's ridiculous and people won't know what's going on. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Would that turn people off? You know, because I feel like that's like, what's the Venn diagram of people who know and can sort it out and they're fine, they're going to go see both anyway. And then the people who like really have no idea, but they're just like, oh, it's a Batman movie, I'll go, like, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe the people who like truly are confused to the point of not being able to get an answer and getting turned off. Like, I don't know. I mean, that group, is that even a sizable group? I mean, I don't know. It might not be. I think maybe sometimes we, myself included, like build that up to be more than it is. I don't know.
You're probably, we're so inside it. Like we have no perspective on it, I think. But what I do think though is stop making the DCEU canon to all your stuff. Because like when we talk about things that happen in Suicide Squad, when Ben Affleck's Batman, that's all people are going to think about in this new universe. So I just look, if it's a good movie, then it's a good movie, right? So fair enough. But this, I mean, there's no indication this is going to happen anytime soon at all. So it's just funny that we keep looking at this thing like on this list while we're still waiting. I think ultimately where my passion comes from is like, I'm sitting here loving what the Matt Reeves universe is, and it seems to be on hold for all this nonsense over here with Batman Brave and the Bold. I was like, just get that out of your head and just go full speed ahead on the Matt Reeves stuff. And then you know what? Don't never cross them over. Let him do whatever he wants, have complete control. And then you at some point can do whatever you want to do. But I feel like they're holding back on that because of this. And I think that's where all my passion comes from about this.
I hear you. And also, because again, we keep zeroing in on this announcement, the plan that was announced, and going back to Brian's question. And yeah, I mean, I do say to myself, and look, as always, right? It's easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, why did he stand in front of that curtain? I'm really fixated on the curtain and say this or that. But yeah, there's a part of me that says, gee, maybe there could have been some value in internally saying, okay, we have this other version. I mean, it really seems like Matt Reeves did not want to participate in the wider DCU and wanted his universe to remain separate, right? At the same time, I mean, even before they knew how long it would take to get the Batman Part 2, I mean, realistically, how many movies are there going to be in the Batman, the Matt Reeves universe? I mean, I mean, it could be a lot, but based on where we are now, probably not a lot. So it could have been the sort of thing where Gunn could have gotten out there and said, hey, right now we're really committed to exploring the story of the Batman over in Elseworlds. When the time is right, don't be surprised if that bat signal goes up in the DCU. And you leave it at that. And it's like, okay, the door's open. We're going to focus on him here. I agree with you. I think it was definitely very curious in that first announcement to be like, hey, we're doing this. And I also agree. I mean, the title I don't really object to, but the business about it being Bruce and Damian, it's like, yeah, that dynamic is interesting. And no pun intended, dynamic duo. I mean, I like the father-son angle, but I do agree with you. It's funny. With Superman, I was a proponent and I remain a proponent of the approach Gunn took where, hey, we're not doing the origin story. We're plunging you into this. He's already Superman. There's already these other superheroes out there. You know, you'll catch up. But on the Batman side, yeah, I mean, to kind of jump all the way ahead to Damian feels like, hey, I think we're kind of leaving something on the table along the way there. So I do agree with that.
Well, I know a comparison we did make that has proven to be true in our initial conversation was the New 52 problem. It's like, well, exactly. It's like a reboot, but it's not. The New 52, it's like, wait a minute, how long has he been Batman? He said 4 Robins already? I'm like, does the general audience member care? No. If you go out, if Batman Brave and the Bold comes out and it's a fantastic movie, then all this stuff we're talking about does not matter at all. Yeah. It doesn't matter at all. But we're talking about our interest and excitement level. And that's why we're coming at it the way we're coming at it. So we'll see. I bet you $20 this movie never happens.
But as far as the canon side of things, I mean, look, I don't know how. By the way, I know I'm getting a little facetious here. I feel like Zach is just bringing this out in me. I'm on board with the DCU. I've made that clear enough. But I don't see what the problem is with canon, Zach. Once Peacemaker announces it as canon, once it's addressed in the Peacemaker show or any of these other projects, once it's referred to, that whatever it is that's referred to becomes canon. Not the entire project that piece is contained within, but that piece. I don't understand what's so confusing about this.
Yeah, it's crystal clear. Crystal clarity of what is canon and what isn't. I mean, does canon matter? I think it does in a cinematic universe, but that's just my opinion. So anyway, we can joke more about that later, but
when we do our episode on Peacemaker season 2, I'm sure we will.
We will.
So that was Batman Brave and the Bold. There were 3 other projects announced in that video. The next one was Booster Gold, a Booster Gold TV series, which that was another one of those ones in that report listed as being on the back burner. There was a quote about them having to pivot on that one. So I don't know. I mean, that's one that I would like to see that come to fruition.
That's a great concept. You do a Legends of Tomorrow-esque time jumping period thing. Now, I thought, it wasn't official, but wasn't Kumail Nanjiani like rumored or announced or unofficially announced as Booster Gold? Nothing officially. Now, I do remember hearing that, and that seemed like, it's going to be him. But it seemed like, tomorrow they're going to announce it or something. It seemed to be the news that I saw. But
yeah, and I think that was the last thing I heard about it. So I don't know. I think that's another one that is kind of floating out there.
That's not the first time, too. Remember back in the day, like after Smallville, it wasn't connected to Smallville, but like the Sci-Fi Channel was going to a Booster TV show based off the success of that Smallville episode. So if you had a successful Smallville episode, there's a lot of talk about a spinoff for you, and you might even get a pilot, but you're certainly not going to get a series, as we found out with Aquaman. So there you go, Booster Gold. I would love that, and of course, I would hope they would base it off Jeff Johns' Booster Gold run. I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential there. I mean, when we look at some of these other TV shows in particular, I could do without the Waller series. I don't really have a lot of investment in a Paradise Island series, but Booster Gold, like that would be pretty cool. And if it ends up being Kumail Nanjiani, I mean, he's hilarious. Like I think that could be a lot of fun. The next project, the penultimate one announced, was Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, henceforth now retitled Supergirl, but that's coming. It's been filmed and has a release date for June 2026. So we're on track.
There it is. We have nothing to say about the ones that are successful, as we're just commenting. But no, great. No, the two Superman-centric titles have come through. I mean, obviously we have a year before less than a year before Supergirl comes out, but everything seems to be full speed ahead on Supergirl, and we look forward to seeing it. It is funny though that the two that there's Creature Commandos, of course, but the other two that did come out, they did change their titles. Yeah, so that is amusing.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to have a lot more to say about Supergirl, both the character and the movie next year. So
I have to read. I've bought it. It's on my show. I need to read it. I'm busy with other stuff. And what should I do first? Should I read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow or watch Creature Commandos, Anthony? Let me know.
I would say read Woman of Tomorrow. Okay. Again, I'm going to have a lot more to say on this. My instinct is I'm excited about the movie, the little glimpse we got of Millie Alcock's Supergirl in the Superman movie. The fact that we have Jason Momoa as Lobo, even though that character was not part of the comic that it's adapting. But, a lot of the pieces here I think are exciting and I'm looking forward to it. It's still one of those, I don't know that that's the specific comic I would have chosen. I might have chosen the Supergirl arc from Superman Batman. That holds. Oh yeah, kind of.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, But look, I'm excited nevertheless.
I will say I hope they at least address Krypton being the way it is as real than Superman. Because Supergirl definitely should have told him that. But we'll see. Now I do think I will. All jokes aside here about when I'm going to read it. I do think I'm going to read it soon because I don't want to read it like immediately before the movie and then be like, well, that wasn't what I read. I feel like that will negatively impact my reaction to it. So I want to make sure I distance myself between reading and watching the movie. So I will say that.
And not to take us afield here, but I mean, are you a Tom King guy generally?
I'm not really. And then my friends who are really big fans of comics and read them all the time. My fans, how pretentious. My friends who are really big fans, like reading comic books all the time. Like I hear them talk a lot of smack about Tom King. So I don't know. Like, he seems to be kind of hit or miss.
He's generally not my cup of tea, but for whatever it's worth, Woman of Tomorrow is one of the two works of his that I really liked. So,
he did Batman Catwoman, right?
Yeah.
I was really hyped for that because they brought the Phantasm in and I was like, this is one of the most confusing comic books I've ever read. So anyway, that's how I feel about it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I know he gave James Gunn the great idea of the hypno glasses. So major points for that.
They're in the comics. They're from the comics. Anyway, the last one in that video was Swamp Thing, which similarly has seemingly been put on the back burner. The quote about that was, "We still talk about it occasionally." So again, I don't mean to kind of rattle these off as the ultimate authority. This was based on what I found and that report from a few months ago. Yes, in particular, those were the quotes at the time. I didn't find anything more recent, so that's what I'm working off of. But yeah, I mean,
that's like an old coworker of yours. We talk about him from now every now and then.
James Mangold, right? He was the director attached to that. Yeah,
it was supposed to be. Yeah.
Are you a Swamp Thing guy to any degree? Did you watch that show, that DC Universe show that they did?
Okay, I didn't watch the new show because they announced its cancellation before it even premiered, which kind of unfortunately turned me off to it. It did have Will Patton from Remember the Titans in it, and that intrigued me. He's in a lot of stuff, but anyway, you asked me that same thing about Swamp Thing. Like, you care about Swamp Thing? I actually am like one of the few, I love Swamp Thing. Like, I grew up, there was a cartoon. I had all the toys. There was a TV show. They had two, this, for whatever reason, this character is more represented in multimedia than most other Batman, Superman, characters in DC Comics. Because again, TV show, ran a few seasons, 2 films, and a cartoon, and a very successful toy line. Crazy. I don't really understand why they picked this character. Maybe because he's achievable, but actually he's not. I mean, it's a kind of monster suit. It's not just an easy thing to do. So it's interesting they keep going back to that well. And then of course that other TV show that was started on DC Universe. And then that's, I think the reason it got canceled is because DC Universe was ending. I've heard it was good, and I don't know. I just was kind of disappointed that it got canceled before it came out. I never got around to seeing it. Again, one of those things that I will watch one day, but I'm not surprised that the Swamp Thing movie has been put on hold because, I mean, again, big Swamp Thing fan. If there is such a thing over here, who's asking for that right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very specific pick. The Swamp Thing largely represents a blind spot for me. I mean, I've really just kind of a casual awareness, and I've really only encountered the character when he's popped up in other stories that I'm reading. Like, I've never read or watched anything Swamp Thing specific, but I'm not opposed to it. And especially that short-lived recent television series. I heard good things. I think ultimately they ended up airing those on the CW because I think that was early COVID times and they were looking for content to fill the schedule. So I think it ended up getting a run on, but it was canceled. Like, it was not coming back. It was just a way to show something.
We see him right on the Crisis on Infinite Earths when all the Earths get restored.
Yes. Yeah.
We see Swamp Thing. So it's just, I don't know. It's bizarre that this guy has more movies and TV shows than almost anybody else.
I know. That is wild. So that's what was in the announcement. And then, I mean, interestingly, that announcement didn't mention Peacemaker season 2, but obviously we're watching Peacemaker season 2 as we're talking here. The Batman Part 2, part of Elseworlds, finally now has this release date of October 1st, 2027. There was a Sergeant Rock movie that seemingly came and went. It wasn't part of that official announcement. Then they were talking about it. Then that seems to have fallen apart.
Daniel Craig sort of attached to it. And I think ultimately him walking away is why it all collapsed. But no one else can play Sergeant Rock than Daniel Craig.
Talk of a Wonder Woman movie, talk of a Teen Titans movie as well.
Yes. Which is, Batman Brave and the Bold. He's got Damian. That means Dick Grayson is older. So I guess the timeline is what it is. Just Teen Titans, that's so many characters, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? If you look at this original slate and you take out Batman Brave and the Bold, you can tell all these stories without Batman and without his supporting cast. And then you can do whatever you want separately. And I think that's the wise thing to do. Introduce Teen Titans. You can't get away with that. You have to explain how old is Dick Grayson? Is he Robin or is he Nightwing? Right? Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it gets very dicey. I mean, I don't know that maybe we've messaged about this, but we haven't really talked about it. The most curious project here, and for all of these things that were announced and they're in various stages of development, might not happen or outright not happening. Clayface emerges from out of nowhere and is scheduled for release on September 11, 2026.
Yes. So Mike Flanagan, I really enjoy his work for Netflix. I think Midnight Mass is one of the most amazing shows that I've seen in a very long time. I highly recommend it. It's Halloween season coming up. Everybody check it out. That spooky vibe. But Mike Flanagan has these great shows like that, like Fall of the House of Usher, all these, classic horror update things for Netflix. He came up with this idea and pitched it to James Gunn, and James Gunn was like, it's so good. We had to greenlight it and blow past everything else we're in development for. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. But now, as I understand it, Mike Flanagan has dropped off the project.
Oh, I'm not aware.
I think I saw something about that, which I'm like, oh, that's not great. Also, I was very excited for this when I thought it was part of the Matt Reeves verse. I assumed it was because it's like, oh yeah, the Batman, Penguin, Clayface. I don't get, but it's like we're doing a Batman villain movie when we don't have any Batman. And I know I just said I didn't want a Batman here, but I also would not want this in the DCU. Here's my problem. I fear that this is going to be like all those Sony Spider-Man Marvel villain movies where you literally cannot have Spider-Man in them. So it's like, what are you even doing? What's your thing? And that's how I feel here, because we're not going to see Batman unless it's some undercover cameo of him showing up at the end, which who knows? That concerns me. So Mike Flanagan excites me. How it fits in the greater universe concerns me. Obviously, I'm going to go see it. Just a very interesting choice to have as your third movie of your cinematic universe, to have a C-list Batman villain. I mean, Batman the Animated Series kind of raised him up quite a bit to maybe B-list, but anyway.
No, like I said, it's just curious to me. Likewise, I'll go see it. A good movie is a good movie. It's not like, oh, I reject it out of principle and I'm not even going to entertain it. It's just, it's weird. And I had to double check because as I was putting together this list, I'm like, wait, is it? Like, it doesn't make sense that it would be in the DCU, but yes, it is. Like, this is in James Gunn's DCU. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like, out of all of the Batman villains to get a solo project, Clayface would certainly not be the first one that would immediately come to mind. To do it divorced from any established Batman is kind of odd. To do it so early in this new cinematic universe is kind of odd, but like I said, a good movie is a good movie. So if this pitch was undeniable and we end up with a really intriguing story, it's also interesting too. I mean, for this to get a theatrical, I mean, this is a live action theatrical movie that's going to come out in theaters. Like this isn't, you know how Marvel's been doing those, what do they call them? Those TV specials?
Showcase?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my God.
Marvel
presents. Marvel Studios presents. Yeah, Werewolf by Night or something like that.
Yes, like if this were something like that for HBO Max, like hey, it's either a made for HBO Max movie or special or something like that. I could understand it a little bit more, but to really, I mean, they're really throwing a lot behind this. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. That's that one is kind of a head scratcher, but it's coming. And then, I mean, on the heels of the Superman movie, Gunn talked about the possibility of potentially a Mr. Terrific HBO Max series or a Jimmy Olsen series. I don't know, because I feel like then he was asked about that in a subsequent interview, and he the vibe I got from his response was like, oh, like it was just kind of, I was just talking. It was kind of the vibe that so I don't know how firm any of that is, but are either or both of those things projects that would excite you?
The Jimmy Olsen show, yes, because it's like day in the life of the Daily Planet, and I have faith that they would at least have Clark and Lois in like the first episode or the last episode, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like, oh, we're Clark's on, or have them on assignment the whole time when they show up at the end is a fun thing. Like they cast this, and that's part of my disappointment. Right? They cast this entire Daily Planet cast and did nothing with them of substance in the movie, other than Jimmy. Jimmy was great in Superman, by the way. I love Jimmy and James Gunn Superman. He was great. But let's see what Ron Troop, did he have a line? I mean, like, let's get that kind of stuff excites me. Like day in the life of Jimmy Olsen, right? Sure. Great. I mean, there's a whole, but it is James Gunn. So maybe so. I was going to say there's a whole series of comics from like the 60s where he gets into wacky adventures all the time up to like, they ran comic ran for like 20 years. Do some of that. I could see it. Right. So that does intrigue me. Mr. Terrific. I mean, Mr. Terrific is like Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park. He's like one of the greatest supporting characters in a film, but then don't go make him the main character of something else. Like we saw that in the Lost World Jurassic Park, where he's not the main character. So I think just have him exist in this, or have a Justice Gang show makes more sense than a Mr. Terrific show on his own, right? Because it's all about how he plays off the characters. Or maybe they do build out his own show, and we know his family life and his alternate identity, but like we never see him without his mask in the movie too. So that's a whole world to explore. So I don't want to write it off the jump, but I'm not like, oh, cool, give me Mr. Terrific show, even though I really liked him in the movie.
I agree. It's funny too, though, because I mean, not to speak for you, but like I feel like we when we hear a TV series, we're thinking like a small, like 200 plus episodes. It's like these days, it's like, oh, he's going to get an HBO Max series, like 8 episodes, and that might be it. So. Yeah,
like Hawkeye for the MCU or something. Yeah. We need to recalibrate our minds when it comes to when they say a TV show. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, I agree with you about Mr. Terrific. Like there's potential. It wouldn't be top of my list. I would be very on board with a Daily Planet / Jimmy Olsen series for all of those reasons. And I mean, especially I was so blown away by that Matt Fraction, Steve Lieber, Who Killed Jimmy Olsen series. From
I heard you guys podcast about that. That was fun. Base it off that.
I'm like, oh my God, just do that. It's so good. And to your point, I mean, I feel like all of those wacky Jimmy adventures and transformations, I feel like that would lend itself perfectly to the overall James Gunn irreverent vibe, and like could be a ton of fun and a way to showcase these characters who were cast but really didn't have much to do except for Jimmy. So yeah, like I would love to see that. So that would be high on my wish list. And then some other animated projects. I mean, they announced the Mr. Miracle animated series based on the Tom King, Mitch Gerard's maxi series.
Tom King, man, getting a lot of play in the DCU, huh?
Mm-hmm. I tried with that maxi series. I'll try again before the animated series comes out. So, and then
sure, I know his name and know he exists. Other than that, does not move the needle for me, Mr. Miracle.
And then, I mean, I guess this falls onto the category of Elseworld. I mean, I honestly, for Mr. Miracle, don't even know if that's meant to be a DCU project or not. I would assume so, but I couldn't say with certainty. But then kind of outside the DCU, obviously we have My Adventures with Superman. We're awaiting a season 3 release date. They've announced My Adventures with Green Lantern. They've announced a Starfire animated series, and they've announced a Superpowers animated series. So we've got those coming down the pike as well.
I did not know about those last two.
The Dynamic Duo animated movie. Have you been tracking that at all?
Yes, I was wondering if you're gonna bring that up, and if you wouldn't, I was gonna be like, so does that count? It's inconclusive. If it's in the DCU or not. See, everything Batman is just in this vague. Batman is now what Superman was in the DCU. It's this vague world we don't want to touch and talk about. Don't talk about that. Don't announce. Don't do anything with. Keep it under, like, behind your closed doors of your conference room if you're thinking about this, because it's this dynamic duo, but not Batman and Robin, about Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. Which you know what I'm mad about? You know how Kyle Rayner is your Green Lantern? Tim Drake is my Robin. Where the hell is Tim Drake in any of this?
I know he really gets left out, because in a world where you can pull Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, or Damian Wayne, like, Tim is my Robin as well. I mean, we're the same age, so it's not a shot, but it's like, that's right. Who I think of first. But it's like, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I feel like, he gets left out.
But like, it's going to be like live action and animate, like it's some mix of things.
And puppetry.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like, this is something that feels like they had an idea at a brainstorming session, and somehow it got leaked out into the public. And now they're like, oh yeah, we have some ideas. So I don't, they got to figure out what they're doing with Batman before they touch any of this stuff.
Overall, and don't worry, I'm going to still ask you about that Welcome to Metropolis junior novel, a prequel. Yes. But as far as the slate, I guess where I am, and I welcome your thoughts, I feel like overall, the slate is in good shape with respect to what Gunn is referring to as the Superman saga. And clearly those are the projects that have gotten off the ground, and we've had some movement, and it feels like we're on solid footing. And going back to what we've been saying all along, even if there were things that we would have wanted done differently, it's like, I think this was a successful takeoff, and we have a plan. And I feel like that's where the slate is in the best shape, even if creatively we might do certain things differently. Overall, Batman definitely feels like the biggest question mark / problem area. And then widening it out even beyond that. Yeah. I mean, I'm hard pressed to say, yeah, like, I look at all these projects and I really see a clear vision. On the Superman saga side, sure, but widening that out, I don't know. I want to, and I remain optimistic, but that's kind of where I am at the moment. Where are you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's reactionary or what, but like, they had Superman, and they were already planning Supergirl. All right, so that's 1, 2. And this Clayface one came out of nowhere. It was so good, they had to make it. It demanded to be made, so it's number 3. But then Superman 2, so to speak, is the 4th one, and that's good. But that shows me that, like, this is the character they want to spend time on. And I'm glad he's getting the focus. But then, like, what are these other things? Like, no, it's like, are those other projects taking away focus from the main thing? I don't know. Does everything have to be the MCU where it's all kind of building one after the other? I mean, they don't really do so much anymore. Like, Marvel Phase 4 and 5 is more scattershot than 1 through 3. And that's fine too. But see, that's the thing about, as we all know, DC used to be very disconnected, right? But that's what gave us the Arkham video games, Superman and Lois, the Arrowverse, right? As in addition to what was going on in the DCEU. So there's some pros and cons to that. So if you're going to go around talking about everything's connected, you kind of want them to actually be connected. But then my favorite thing, and if anything going on right now, is the Matt Reeves stuff, which is not connected to any of this. So I'm like, okay, sure, I guess do what you want. But yeah, I am glad that they are, at least, I'm glad Superman's not in limbo anymore, even though it wasn't like the ideal Superman reboot that I would have made and was like, oh, A+, right? Still, I'm glad that they have a plan for the character. They're building on it. And it's like when you're, again, I'm talking for myself now. Everybody calm down. When your sports team loses a game, you're like, I'm going to watch the next game because I hope they win. So I'm like, that's where I am with Superman right now, as far as the movies go. And Supergirl is de facto a Superman movie adjacent. I mean, I'm going to count it as a Superman family movie. So 3 in a row is a good place to be, and we'll see where they are. But yeah, I just ultimately, James Gunn, man, so many of these announcements come from like you like responding to social media posts. It's all these other ones that weren't on the slate, for example, all these comments. It's like, put the phone down, James. Like, let's just stick to the slate we have, and we'll address the movies as they come out. That's how I feel about it. Yeah. More than anything, I'm glad for Superman to be at the forefront, for Superman to be a priority, for there to be a Superman saga, regardless of whether you like the use of the term saga after Marvel already used it. But no, like that excites me. And
I mean, I agree with you. You know, when you rattled off all of those things during the disconnected phase, we got some great stuff. I mean, look, the Arrowverse fell off by the end, but when it was at its height, I mean, that was amazing. I look back on it, it's like crazy to think that we had that volume of shows and the crossovers. It was crazy. So I don't need everything to be fully connected. And then even just within this, this new cinematic world that they're building, I mean, if it ends up being something akin to the Infinity Saga and I don't know what that looks like on the DC side. I mean, these alternate dimensions, pocket universes, that seems to be the connective thread. It's like, sure, if it all comes together, that's great. But I want each one to be as strong as it can be. And especially if the Superman stuff ties together effectively, that's really all I don't feel that strongly beyond that. On the Gunn front, what I'll say, I think ultimately these are both positives. The first one definitely, which is, like I said, I think he's in a tough spot, right? If you don't announce anything, it's like he doesn't have a plan. Then if he announces it and it changes, we complain about that. And to his credit, I mean, if the Waller thing wasn't coming together, and I still would really love to know what the F the problem was there, but if for whatever reason it's not coming together, I wouldn't want him to like ram it through and give us a Waller series just because he said he was going to. It's like, no, if it's really not there, the right thing is to not do it. So I give him credit on that front. And then the last thing, to your point about him firing off all of these social media responses, I think, it's like, I think we've all been taking him too seriously in a sense. Like, I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but I think for myself, it's like, yeah, he's just responding to people all the time. Some of the stuff doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it changes. I mean, all this business about whether it's going to be a sequel or not a sequel, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's just kind of shooting from the hip a little bit. Yeah. This is my point. I feel like we're kind of looking at it from like, well, he's the head of the studio and he's making an official statement, but it's like, nah, man, I don't know. Like he's on his phone and he's just like firing this off. Like, I think maybe we're putting a little bit too much stock in it.
That's fair. I'll give him a defense and then a critique as we close out that part of the conversation. I'll say, you know what, James, you are now the head of DC Studios. So what you say has a lot of weight. So you got to watch out. When people are like, hey, you said this on March 8th, 2024. And then, right. Some people are going to screenshot that and post it. So just be present of that, James. You're not just texting your buddies anymore. You're speaking for a whole studio. On the other side, I'll defend him. Like, yeah, you know what the problem is? This 24/7 entertainment news cycle of all these websites trying to breaking news. James Gunn announces a Batman and Robin film, like Wonder Woman reboot coming soon. Like they're going to take anything he says and try and make it a story, and that's not his fault. That's just where we are as the internet news cycle goes, especially in these fandoms where people are just so ready to jump on stuff and break news, quote unquote. So that's fair.
And look at all these numbnuts with podcasts. We're doing a special episode breaking down all this stuff, talking about the curtain.
We got to get on a mic immediately.
It's funny. We talk a lot about doing our like emergency breaking news edition podcast. I don't really consider this that. I mean, it's a little impromptu, but like we were saying, we had been intending to do another episode talking about the overall state of the DCU. So that's how I'm categorizing this. Last thing, because I know you feel strongly about this. And this really came up very recently, right?
Yeah.
But you know more about this than I did, but Gunn confirmed that the Welcome to Metropolis junior novel prequel is not canon to the DCU, correct?
When you say it that way, it makes me sound dumb. But
it's a little book for children. It's not.
So there was no novelization of James Gunn's Superman, right?
Right.
It was a tie-in prequel junior novel was the official name of it. And on a social media platform, could be Twitter, could be Threads. I'm never sure. James Gunn is all over the place. Someone asked, so the Welcome to Metropolis prequel novel isn't canon, or is that an exception? And James Gunn says it is not canon. No. And does that matter? No, because look, if it's on screen, it's canon in these multimedia universes, right? I learned this from being a Star Wars and Star Trek fan. Like if there's comics, there's books, all that is secondary canon, like B-level canon, right? Then you have A-level canon, which is stuff you see on screen. TV shows, movies. But when there's no tie-in novel and there's nothing like, there's no origin in this movie, you don't know what Superman's first day was, how he got his name, what Lex was up to before this. It's like, oh, well, this prequel novel, I know it's a junior novelization, so it is, simplified aimed at younger viewers, readers. Okay, fair enough, but that doesn't mean it's not like, the backstory of this Superman. But now I'm like being told, no, it's not canon. I'm like, well, then why did I read it? I'm like, well, you should read it for its own enjoyment. Yes. But I read it to get some context and some questions answered about this version of the character. And you have immediately told me that it does not canon. I'm like, well, then what are we even doing? Why even have a tie-in book then? You know what I'm saying? Now, when stuff like, okay, say this came out and then like 2 movies from now, something happens that contradicts this. Oh, fine, sure. Of course you overwrite it. But you don't immediately say when the movie is still in theaters, oh, yeah, that prequel novel we released? Yeah, it's not canon. It does not connect to anything. Again, maybe your point, he's just firing stuff off on someone's like, oh, yeah, I don't even know what that is. No, that's not canon. So maybe so, but like you made such a big deal about it's all connected. Video games, comic books, novels, movies, TV shows. Well, then like the only tie-in novel is now not canon. So now am I going to buy and read these other ones? I don't know, frankly.
I know. You did a whole episode on it.
I did a breaking news episode, emergency podcast on this. So should I be this fired up about it? No, it's absurd that I am, but it's just like the fact that I went out of my way to read this and do a podcast about it. And I felt like, oh, okay, well, we're never going to know the answers to how the Superman showed up or how he got his job or how he met Lois or anything like that. But the answers are in this book. So I'm glad I did. And then it makes me feel like I wasted my time because I guess that's kind of why I'm so annoyed about it, right?
I agree. Look, I didn't do a whole episode, but I read it. I mean, I bought that book and I read it. And look, it's for young readers. It's a pretty brisk read, but still for that hour or whatever that I sat there, and I read it for the exact same reason as you. It's like I wanted to get a sense of, I wanted to glean whatever I could about the overall vibe or the backstory that we were not going to see in the movie. And I mean, I'll be honest, there was enough in that book, like Superman making his debut at the toy factory or the toy store, and he's already calling himself Superman.
He named himself Superman.
I'm like, I'm okay if this isn't canon. But, they had Metallo, which I thought was cool. And I felt like the dynamic in the Daily Planet felt in keeping with what we would ultimately see in the movie. So, it felt like a worthy read at the time. Mostly, though, I agree with you. It is just kind of odd if we're really making this big point about interconnectedness to so casually be like, oh yeah, no, that doesn't count. It's like, okay.
because like, okay, when novelizations of movies come out, they're usually based off the first draft of a script or something, right? So it's like, I count stuff in that like as deleted scenes. Like, well, in the Batman Forever novelization, which is a great novelization, by the way, by the late, great Peter David, Batman Forever. There's a lot of stuff in there like, oh, this and that, but it's not in the movie, so it's not canon. That's fine. But like when you specifically write a thing to tie into a thing, that should be canon, at least for a while. Like the Samurai Jack guy, name escapes me, but he did the Clone Wars animated, Tarkovsky did the Clone Wars animated cartoons. Those were canon in between episodes 2 and 3 of Star Wars for a long time. And then the CGI animated Clone Wars came out and superseded those, right? But for like 5 or 6 years, that was canon, I mean, so like, the fact this thing it got killed before it even had a chance to like be canon at all. That's the thing. I think that's what it is. It's like, dude, the movie is still in theaters. Can we wait till the sequel comes out and contradicts it to then say it's not canon?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing where I wonder from Gunn's perspective when he got asked that question was, did he say it's not canon because there's something in it specifically where he's like, no, like that doesn't line up with the way I see this or what I'm going to do in the next movie? Or is it really like, I didn't read that? No, it's not canon. Or like,
that's probably what it is. Again, we have no business being this upset about it. I'm sorry, but I don't know why. I'm just going off.
Hey, look, we bought the book and sat and read it. So that's something.
The Otis is the main thing that I guess is quote unquote contradicted because in the book, he's very like the Ned Beatty, like kind of slow Otis. Lex is like, did no respect for him, that sort of thing. In the movie, he's just a guy that works for Lex. So like there's a disconnect there. But other than that, I think nothing is contradicted in the book so far.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm excited for Man of Tomorrow. We'll see how the rest of this slate shakes out. The only thing that's really going to piss me off is if like tomorrow or and then a few days before this episode comes out, if he busts out that curtain and does another video and he's here's the rest of Gods and Monsters, then I'm really be pissed.
Then it's time for an emergency podcast. It's really emergency podcast at that point. But I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to get another announcement like that. They just seem to be like social media posts in the middle of work days. How we're going to find out what the next movie is going to be. So I don't know. It's an interesting time to be a DC fan. We got content coming out. There seems to be a plan for our favorite characters. So we'll see where it goes. For all my critiques, these movies and these DC Comics has my money for the rest of my life. So just know that I'm not out here trying to say like, I'm not going to see this or don't go see that or this frustrates me or this or that. Like I'm just expressing my opinions and my thoughts about it. And I'm a lifer. They got me, so there you go. They have my money. My ticket is sold for every one of these movies and TV shows forever. So just let it be known.
No, same. I think, look, we feel invested because we love these characters so much. We spend a lot of time thinking and talking about them. And I think a lot of times it's just about trying to understand the approach, the thought process, the reasoning. That's all.
Am I truly enraged that this young adult novel is not canon? No, I just find it more amusing than anything.
I mean, but did you go outside and burn it as soon as you saw that reply? Of course.
Yeah. It has no use to me now that it's not canon.
What would you like to share with folks about Always Hold On to Smallville?
Yeah, so Always Hold On to Smallville is a young Superman podcast about, it's a podcast about a young Superman show that ran from 2001 to 2011 on the WB and the CW. We have covered each and every episode of the show. So if you're a Smallville fan or a Superman fan looking to maybe get into it, pick your favorite episode of Smallville and start there. And with this podcast, the podcast has continued. We are continuing to talk about things that are Smallville adjacent. There are tie-in books, there are tie-in comics. We have some other fun projects planned along the way. So stay tuned for anything like that. And then we do Superman specials and things. Anthony's been on a lot as well. So thank you for that. And you'll hear a lot of other familiar voices maybe from this show around my show as well every now and then. So follow us on social media at Always Smallville with 1S.
Awesome. Well, thank you. At long last, we got, even though we didn't get the official part 2 of Gods and Monsters or whatever, we got to do this and it was a lot of fun.
We did it. I look forward to the next time when the slate gets updated again.
Yes. So thank you, Zach. Thank you, audience. Make sure you guys come back. Next week, we have Jeff Loeb. And the week after that, Josh Williamson. Some really fun, exciting interviews. Make sure you tune in for those. Until then, as always, it's about what you do. It's about action. This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions. It helps support the show too. Thank you. By popular demand, Digging for Kryptonite merch is now available at our TeePublic store. Visit the link in the show notes to get your DFK shirts, hats, mugs, and more. Support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your platform of choice and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Flat Squirrel Podcast is also home to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman, now covering the color era of the classic George Reeves series. Subscribe today. Digging for Kryptonite is a Flat Squirrel production. Key art by Isaiah Simmons and theme music by Dan Pritchard.